want to know a little bit more about like a Bawse outside of Hearthstone. Do you have anything that you enjoy doing in your spare time besides play Hearthstone?
The perfect time is like when I play with my daughter and she's smiling at me. That's the best free time I can have. Don't cry. I joined the army 1 year and a half or something, and then my girlfriend told me that I'm gonna have a baby, and in the start it's like, whoa, what I'm gonna do? I don't have a job, I don't have anything. Imagine that I finished the army and I haven't even seen her with your belly. So as soon as I left the army, they just gave me a baby, like, here, you finish the army, take a baby too. But in the beginning I was afraid, but now it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And she's always helping me in top decks and everything.
So would you say that if you won the championship, it would mostly be for your family?
It will be for her and for my girlfriend for sure.
Is Amelia gonna play Hearthstone when she's old enough to click some buttons?
I hope not, because she's gonna win me.
She's gonna beat you?
Yeah.
Like a Bawse has been on one hell of a journey so far, and he's going to really need to dig deep and get some inspiration from his family to be able to claw his way back into this series, as that last game was, I mean, I'm glad we just had a moment there to just calm down, because that was crazy.
It was, yeah. Like a Bawse mentioned, that he feels like his daughter brings him good luck in Hearthstone. So I'm wondering, after that last game in particular, whether DrHippi has a daughter somewhere that he doesn't know about that's bringing him good luck. It's possible.
It's going to be a very strange good luck charm. I don't recommend this for everyone.
No.
Definitely something just to consider, though. But yeah, the series overall is looking a little bit rough, and DrHippi, on the back of some very fortunate moments, has managed to go up 3-0 so far. And as we mentioned just before we had a minute there, the Tempo Mage is gone. Mm-hmm. So that was the worrying deck, and we were all realistically worried about. As I said, when I was sat with him, he told me just not played the deck that much before, even at all. It's like, you're brave man. You're a brave man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to discredit him at all. He's an amazing player, and 66% of his wins have come off his back. But he was just dead that game without that Arcane Explosion draw. So it was huge, and it is a skill-based video game, believe it or not. But sometimes, if you are going to make the big push, you do need that little bit of luck in the right place, and that's exactly what he picked up.
Yeah, 100%. And it looks like DrHippi has his warrior left as well, which is a bit of a different one, which feels strange to say compared to the rest of the warrior list we've seen at the moment. It's going to be good old-fashioned Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, what kind of crazy meta are we playing in this tournament where good old-fashioned hit-you-in-the-face Dragon Warrior is the breath of fresh air as far as the warrior decks go?
A very strange one is my answer.
Yeah.
But the first deck Like a Bawse has chosen to go up against this warrior is going to be his Hunter. And I know I'm pretty sure Like a Bawse does quite enjoy Hunter as a class. I was talking to him quite a lot about it yesterday in terms of just different builds, different slight styles, variations. So I feel like he's going with a comfort pick at least, because he has to win every single game versus this Dragon Warrior to be able to take the series.
Absolutely does, and this is a matchup that there's quite a lot of disagreement on, honestly, as to who's favoured. Sometimes you get that annoying answer of, well, if the warrior gets Fiery War Axe, they're favoured. It's like, no, that's just not how matchups work. Yeah. Like, on average, who's favoured? But it really is a snowbally matchup, right? Yes. It comes down to who grabs the board early, and with Like a Bawse's particular list, he has the extra, Argent Squire plus Abusive Sergeant package in there as well. He probably has more tools to be able to do that early than the Dragon Warrior does. That plays, a lot of, fairly clunky mid to late game minions. But having said that, DrHippi has a pretty quick draw of his own available to him.
Yeah, and I think Hippie as well has the Twilight Guardian, which is one of the breakers in this match, because I think that it's so awkward for the Hunter to deal with that 6 health. It's never clean with just a kill command. It really requires Deadly Shot, if you have it, to just keep up the tempo and keep pushing. Or you have to just commit like a minion plus kill command, or a minion plus quick shot, and then that really slows down your turn.
Yeah, sure does. But for now, like Bawse is curving out. Ahead of his opponent here, so DrHippi will need to play catch up, and he doesn't have that Fiery War Axe to be able to do it. He does have Ravaging Ghoul available to him, and I think this choice of development here is somewhat with Ravaging Ghoul in mind, because you can see the Ravaging Ghoul will punish his 2-1. So the choice here between the Grandmother and the Huge Toad, this means that he keeps a 3-2 on board after the Ravaging Ghoul as opposed to a 3-1.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good so far, and it's if DrHippi even chooses to play the Ghoul.
Yeah, I don't think this is the
I was going to say, because now he has a few more options. I mean, I definitely don't think the frothing is a good idea a lot of the time, but the monkey seems okay here.
Yeah, Monkey and Frothing essentially do a similar job in this situation, so it's kind of which do you value more later. And DrHippi actually is going to play the Ravaging Ghoul here just to immediately contest, but just going back to the point, it's about which do you value later. Do you want to keep the Frothing so you can make an aggressive push later, or do you want to keep the Fierce Monkey so you can be defensive later and potentially, Hunter, I talked about the power level of Call of the Wild specifically before, but because that card is so powerful, it also makes them quite linear going into turn 8, because that's the only thing you're scared of happening, right? Call of the Wild. So sometimes having specifically a taunt minion, you can make their play even more linear by saying, right, this is where your Huffer has to go. It has no option.
It up perfectly, yeah. And that's why a lot of the time, we saw it in one of the previous games with like a boss. If you can force a setup before Call of the Wild with minions that are probably going to stick, then you definitely go for it, given the right situation. And we just saw then like a boss trading into the Ghoul, which is pretty much what he wants to do, because he did draw the second Toad, but as we said earlier, this is a snowball matchup, so you do trade. A lot of times Hunter, you just be aggressive and let your opponent go into you, but you do definitely trade here to be able to keep head on the board, because if Warrior sticks on the board, normally the minions are just bigger than yours, so it's a real problem. Ooh, whiff.
That's a bad Barnes.
Okay, Toad, you've got some work to do.
Huge Toad, it's all on you, buddy.
Oh.
Nope. Yeah, he could have chosen to go Animal Companion there instead of Barnes and given himself the extra 33% outcome from Leok to be able to trade up effectively, but probably not worth it in the long run. That is pretty much the bottom tier of outcomes he could have had from his 2 checks that turn. First the Barnes check and then the 50-50 on the Huge Toad. Just about as bad as it could have gone.
Yeah, and also as well, just the sheer playing off curve when he has Animal Companion plus Toad next turn. It's a pretty good follow-up, and now we see this sort of the worry of the Twilight Guardian coming down now, and suddenly the board's starting to just spiral a little bit out of control for like a boss here.
Certainly is, and like you said, that 3-6 is just such a big deal.
It's so awkward.
Such an annoying minion for them to deal with, not only in this mid-game period, but it's also just amazing for exactly that late-game Call of the Wild situation, right? You just play a 3-6 into their Call of the Wild turn. And it's like, oh, well, my 5-2 Huffer is kind of sad right now.
Yep. The Leok doing some good work, though, means he can clear off the Twilight Guardian this turn. And, don't really care about the monkey at 3-1 compared to the 6 health of the Twilight Guardian.
Yeah, for sure. And he absolutely deserves that outcome after the last,
everything went wrong.
That evens out a little bit, what happened on the last turn where he got, a bad outcome from his Barnes and then missed on the Huge Toad 50-50 as well. So Leok's serving out some sweet, sweet animal companion justice there, and
That's what I
allowing
like
him
to see.
to trade into that annoying 3-6 that we were talking about. But DrHippi has, secured the early game here. He's navigated the early game turns. At least he's still a little bit behind on the board, but having now drawn Curator as well, his ability to go late with this Dragon Warrior deck is so huge.
Exactly, yeah. Like a boss at this point, it's generally around turn 5 or 6 as Hunter that you really have to start thinking about what resources you have available, because it's normally not a lot, and work out how to get the most out of them, because as we can see, the Warriors just already got way more cards, and as you mentioned, Curator only helps. It's only going to refill and cause even more problems. And pretty much like a boss is going to want either a Tracking or a Call the Wild coming up soon. Maybe even a High Main will be enough, because he currently is ahead on board, so a High Main would help cement that. But other than that, every other draw in his deck would feel a bit lackluster.
Sure. I think that was a perfect sequencing of attacks there from Bawse as well. There's no need to fully respect the Drake. This is probably the only deck in Hearthstone that plays Azure Drake that you don't have to respect Azure Drake to actually be like a destructive source of spell damage. So he didn't need to kill it. But if he'd have just sent both of his attacks face, then the Drake comes back into the Leok, and then suddenly your Kindly Grandmother only has one power, so it can't complete that trade. It can't force it to happen in the end. So I like his decision to do the halfway play here, make sure that if that Drake trades into anything on this board, it's just going down immediately, and also just maximize his pressure on the board for the next turn.
Yeah, now, it's looking like a boss does have a good amount of minions on board. The Unleash not really going to do too much work, maybe depending on where this Toad goes. But the Fiery Bite,
just not what he needs.
It's not enough. No, like we said, it's just not going to be enough. He might be okay for one more turn, and he can allow himself one more draw. But if he continues to whiff this hard, it's DrHippi's just going to outvalue him at this point.
Yeah, he absolutely is. The one thing that's worth saying about DrHippi's list is that he doesn't play Deathwing, which is a pretty recent, not recent, but it's a later development in the Dragon Warrior list after it was being refined. So if Bawse can kind of keep this wide board built up against the Dragon Warrior, it's hard for them to deal with, especially after he's used one of his Ravaging Ghouls already early on in the game.
His only.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, you're totally right.
He has used his Ravaging Ghoul.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's a real tough one, and suddenly these 1 health minions are just about enough to stick to the board at the moment. But I just like Curator, because there literally needs to be a burn draw or a Call of the Wild to deal with it efficiently.
I don't hate double frothing. It potentially trades down this entire board anyway. If you can put the fear into your opponent to be able to do it, I think that gives you the best platform to be able to fight back from long term. It's just as weak to Call of the Wild, but you cannot beat a Call of the Wild draw here.
Animal Companion's not terrible though. Toughest, that's what, 6, 13, all face. You've seen a ghoul. The Frothings are not going to ridiculously buff this turn, and then smack them back for 27. I just like all face here. You need to end this game soon.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
Let's do it. Send it all downtown. It looks like that's what's happening. And as you said, the one Ravaging Ghoul, these lists are revealed. So Bawse will know that the one ghoul is the only ghoul in the deck and that it's already been used. So he knows not only is this board more likely to stick because the Ravaging Ghoul is there, but also the threat of double frothing is not a real threat because it's not going to get out of control in just one turn.
Yep. Now DrHippi has what's potentially the last turn of this game to consider how he wants to try and combat this threat from Bawse, but there are still so many cards he could draw now. He's still got some burn. Quick Shot, for example, would be kind of brutal here, as it would be his only card, so he can cycle as well as dealing 3 damage. And there's still the hero power, just pretty much negating the hero power of the warrior here as well, so it's going to be a tough one at this point. I think Curate is just the play.
the only player. He does get himself Sir Finley as well off of this. Hasn't drawn it yet, so he will get the full 3-card package here. But it's a question of whether he wants it on this